Hi, everybody. Today I will be conducting a training on measurement and how it relates to behavior analysis. So first I want to talk about the definition and the functions of measurement. The measurement is the process of assigning numbers or units to features of objects or events. So we want to use measurement to compare the measurements of the target behavior before and after treatment. So you want to know what the measure of your behavior during baseline, during your intervention, and then afterwards, because this optimizes the effectiveness of our interventions and it lets us know if they're working or if they're not and they need to be changed. Measurement also verifies evidence-based treatments. So behavior analysts use measurement to determine if treatments are research-based and that they should be continued to be used. Measurement also enables us to be accountable and achieve ethical standards for our clients. So first I want to talk about indirect measurement. Indirect measurement means that you're not directly observing the client engaging in the behavior. You're obtaining information about the behavior through other means. So some of these ways to do that would be through interviews with the parents of the client or the client themselves or other people that work with the client, questionnaires that are filled out again by the client, parents, or anybody that works with them, or testing scores. These measures are not very reliable because it's always better to actually observe the behavior for yourself. So that's why we typically use direct measurement, which is actually observing and collecting data on the target behavior. There's continuous measurement, which means all instances of the behavior are detected, and discontinuous measurement, which means some instances of the behavior are detected. And there's different reasons for choosing a continuous measurement method or a discontinuous measurement method, and I will talk about those as we move through this training. But first, all measurements fall under one of the following dimensions. Repeatability means that the behavior can be counted. So if you can count the behavior, you might want to choose a repeatability measure. Temporal extent means that you can count the amount of time that the behavior lasts. So if you can time the behavior, you may want to choose a temporal extent measure. And the last one is temporal locus, which means the behavior occurs at a certain time due to other events happening around the client. So you may want to choose this type of a measure if the behavior always occurs at a certain time. So first I want to talk about repeatability measures. So the first most simple one is counter frequency, and it is what it says it is. It just means count the number of times the behavior occurs. So before you can do any of these measures, you need to have an operational definition of the behavior that you're looking for. So in the video we're about to watch, the video is about minions, and the one minion keeps laughing. So we're going to count the laughing behavior. So this includes any snickering, chuckling, or full-blown cracking up laughing that the minion engages in. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video and see if you can count the number of times that the minion laughs. Did you count 6 times? That would be the count or frequency. Rate means the number of responses per unit of time. So I may want to know how many times a behavior occurs every minute or every hour. For this example, the behavior occurred 6 times in 45 seconds. Acceleration is how rates of response change over time. They can accelerate, which means increase, or decelerate, decrease. A good example I have for acceleration is when students are studying for a exam that has lots of vocabulary terms. They may create flashcards of their 100 terms, and then they may spend a minute every day studying those terms for the few weeks before the exam. So every day they practice for a minute and they write down how many they got. So the first day they practice, they may only get 5 in the minute, but then the next time they practice, they may get 7 or 10. Okay, so acceleration is how the rates of response change. So again, in this example, the change is accelerating. The student is learning more every time they practice. One good thing to remember about repeatability measures is to calculate the correct and incorrect responses. So for example, with deceleration, I may say the first day I got 5 right, but I got 8 wrong. And then we want the number right to increase and the number wrong to decrease. The temporal extent measure is duration. Duration is the length of time that the behavior occurs. So you may time the behavior for the entire session, or you may time just one occurrence of the behavior. It may last a long time. And then you can combine count and duration. So let's rewatch the video about the minions, and this time I'm going to use my stopwatch and time how long he spends laughing. So while I timed the minion, I started and stopped my stopwatch every time he started laughing, and then stopped it every time he stopped laughing. And I determined that he laughed for about 9 seconds of the 45-second video. So I can combine count and duration. I can say he laughed 6 times for a total of 9 seconds. Temporal locus measures, the first one is interresponse time. Interresponse time is the time between 2 instances of a response. So that would be the time in between the laughing behavior. So after the first time he laughs, I would start the timer, and I would keep the timer going until the next time he laughs, the time in between those responses. Response latency is the amount of time between a stimulus and a response. So I might tell a student in my classroom, get back in your seat, and then the amount of time between the time I said to get back in your seat and until the child gets in their seat, that's response latency. So we're gonna watch a funny video relating to response latency. The man is gonna slap himself, and then I'm gonna time how long it is from the time he slaps himself until he says, ow. Start timer. Stop timer. So in that example, the response latency was about 8.5 seconds. There are also some derivative measures that are commonly used in behavior analysis. The first one is percentage. So I can already take what I know about the minions. The minion laughed for a total of 9 seconds out of the 45-second video. 9 seconds divided by 45 seconds times 100 is 20%. So the minion laughed for a total of 20% of the 45-second video. Trials to criterion is the number of opportunities needed to achieve a predetermined level of performance, and this may take multiple steps. So for this example, maybe I have a client that I'm trying to teach her the colors of the rainbow, but she doesn't know any of them yet. So rather than teaching her all of them at once, I may teach 2 and differentiate between the two, and then add one in each day until she knows all of them. And then I may graph each day how many she got right until she meets criteria of all the colors. And maybe I will make a predetermined guess that it will take her 15 trials to meet that goal. And then I graph it each day until she gets to that goal. There are a couple definitional measures. So topography is how a behavior looks. It is important that this is defined so that everyone measuring the behavior of a client is able to distinguish the target behavior. So like the minions, does snickering count? Does chuckling count? Are we counting haha versus ha 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 ha? Okay, so everybody needs to be on the same page so everybody's counting the same behaviors. Same with magnitude. Magnitude is the force or the intensity of the behavior. So the minions is another good example of that. The magnitude was a lot lower when he was just chuckling, but then the intensity got a lot higher when he was cracking up laughing. Are we counting all of that? Everybody on the team needs to be on the same page. There are some discontinuous measurement methods. Again, discontinuous means we aren't counting every instance. We may use some of these methods typically for time saving and so that the observer doesn't have to watch every instance of the behavior. So the first one is whole interval recording. The client must engage in the behavior for the entire interval. This is an underestimation of behavior because let's use the minions again. Did they engage for the whole interval, the whole 45 seconds? No, but he did engage for 20%, but that doesn't count because I'm only counting it if it's the whole interval. Therefore, I'm not going to count that interval, and it's an underestimation because he did engage in the behavior for 20% of it. Partial interval is the opposite of that. The client can engage in the behavior at any point in the interval, and it will be counted. This is an overestimation of the behavior. So again, the minion engaged in the behavior for 20%. That's part of it, so I will count it for partial interval recording. However, 20% is a lot less than half of the interval, so it's an overestimation. Momentary time sampling means I count it if the target behavior is occurring at the moment that the interval ends, so that the end of that 45 seconds, was the minion laughing? Yes, so it would count. However, even though this doesn't require undivided attention of the observer, a lot of behavior is missed because the client would have to be engaging in that behavior in that exact precise moment to be counted. Same goes for planned activity check. Planned activity check is a time sample check of a group of students working together. The teacher counts how many students from the group are engaged in the targeted activity at the end of each interval. I want to talk about just two more measurement methods. Permanent product recording is measuring the effects of the behavior on the environment after the behavior has occurred. Sometimes this is when teachers grade works that students have turned in. So I may want to know how well a student can write an essay. So I'm going to tell them to write the essay, and then I'm not going to observe them writing the essay. I'm just going to grade what they turn into me. I have a good example of this that I deal with on a weekly basis, my fiance, and how well he is able to put his laundry in his hamper. So as you can see here, I counted the amount of clothing items he has here, and 10 are in the hamper and 5 are either on the floor or on the chair near the hamper. So 10 out of 15 items, or 66% of the items, are in the hamper, and 5 out of 15 are on the floor or chair. So 33% are not in the hamper. Did I watch him do this? No, but I went in his room later to grab his clothing, and this is what it looked like. So it's a permanent product. The last one I want to talk about is computer-assisted measurement. It's data collection software using computers, phones, or tablets, and has become very popular and beneficial in the field of behavior analysis. The programs use the techniques that I've described in this training, but the technology simplifies the recording of the data and will often calculate and graph the data for you. So it is becoming very popular in the field of behavior analysis because the technology does the work for you. You just have to count it correctly using your device. So I hope that this training on measurement gives you guys a good base for some of the terminology you may come across in the field of behavior analysis. Feel free to re-watch this video to review the terminology, and have a great day.